The courtroom fell silent the instant the young woman stepped through the heavy wooden doors carrying a weathered leather briefcase. Every attorney turned to stare as she calmly walked toward the witness stand. The powerful corporation that had spent months trying to destroy one exhausted single father suddenly looked uncertain for the very first time. No one understood why the stranger's eyes filled with tears when she looked at the man sitting alone at the defense table. Then she spoke the words that changed every life in the room forever. She wasn't there to represent the billionaire company. She was there to save the man who had once saved a forgotten little girl that nobody else believed was worth loving. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing inspiring stories like this one. 15 years earlier, Carson Hale never imagined that a single decision made during an ordinary spring afternoon would shape the rest of his life. He was a hard-working mechanic living in a quiet American town, raising his 6-year-old son, Owen, after losing his wife to a sudden illness. Every day felt like climbing a mountain. Bills piled higher than his paycheck, grief followed him everywhere, and exhaustion became a permanent part of his life. Yet no matter how difficult things became, Carson refused to let bitterness replace compassion. One bright afternoon, while walking home after picking Owen up from school, Carson noticed a small girl sitting alone beside a public library. She looked no older than 7. Her oversized coat was torn, her shoes barely fit, and she held an old backpack tightly against her chest as if it contained everything she owned. People passed without slowing down. Some looked away. Others pretended not to notice. Carson could have done the same. Instead, he knelt beside her with gentle concern. The frightened child eventually revealed that her name was Clara Winslow. She had been moving between shelters after losing both parents in separate tragedies, and the relatives assigned to care for her had abandoned their responsibilities. She had learned not to expect anyone to stay. Something inside Carson broke that afternoon. He recognized the same loneliness he had seen in his own son's eyes after losing his mother. He contacted Child Services, cooperated with every legal requirement, and over many months opened not only his home but also his heart. Eventually, Clara officially became part of their family. Life did not magically become easier. 3 people now depended on one modest income. Carson often skipped meals so the children could eat better food. He repaired neighbors' cars during weekends for extra money. Old clothes were carefully mended instead of replaced. Birthdays were celebrated with homemade cakes and handwritten cards rather than expensive gifts. Yet their small house overflowed with something money could never buy. It became a home filled with laughter, honesty, and unconditional love. Clara carried deep emotional scars. Loud voices frightened her. She hid food beneath her bed because she feared going hungry again. Every time Carson left for work, she worried he might never return. Instead of becoming impatient, Carson patiently reminded her every single day that she belonged. She was no longer unwanted. She was his daughter. Years slowly transformed fear into confidence. Clara excelled in school. She discovered a remarkable talent for reading complicated documents and solving difficult problems. Teachers admired her determination, while classmates respected her quiet kindness. Whenever anyone praised her achievements, she always smiled and remembered the man who had taught her that her past did not define her future. Carson's small repair shop gradually expanded into a respected automotive manufacturing business specializing in innovative commercial vehicle components. Customers trusted his honesty more than flashy advertising. He hired struggling workers who simply needed someone willing to give them another chance. Many employees considered the company an extended family because Carson believed character mattered more than perfect resumes. Clara eventually earned a scholarship to one of the nation's most respected law schools. Carson cried with pride during graduation, although he quietly worried about the enormous expenses that still remained. Clara noticed his concern but never allowed him to carry it alone. She studied harder than ever, worked part-time, and graduated near the top of her class. Before joining any prestigious law firm, Clara spent time volunteering for organizations helping children in foster care. She understood their fears because she had lived them herself. Every child she encouraged reminded her of the frightened little girl sitting outside that library years before. Meanwhile, Carson's growing company attracted attention from a ruthless corporate conglomerate determined to eliminate smaller competitors. The corporation offered enormous sums to purchase his business. Carson politely refused every proposal because selling would mean laying off hundreds of loyal employees who depended on the company. Refusal quickly turned into retaliation. False accusations appeared in newspapers. Anonymous complaints triggered endless government inspections. Former suppliers mysteriously canceled contracts after receiving pressure from powerful executives. Investors withdrew support, frightened by rumors that Carson's business had committed financial fraud. The allegations were completely fabricated, but defending against them drained every dollar Carson possessed. Lawyers warned that the coming civil trial could destroy everything he had spent decades building. Friends encouraged him to surrender before losing his home, his company, and his reputation. Carson refused to lie, but he also refused to hate those attacking him. He believed truth eventually found its own voice, even when it seemed hopelessly buried beneath deception. Clara had recently accepted a position at a respected legal firm in another state when she learned about Carson's situation. She immediately requested leave and spent days reviewing thousands of pages of financial records, contracts, and corporate communications. The more she investigated, the more she realized someone had carefully constructed an elaborate scheme to force Carson into bankruptcy before purchasing his company for almost nothing. Hidden inside years of archived records, Clara uncovered overlooked signatures, altered invoices, and internal communications connecting several dishonest executives to fraudulent evidence submitted against Carson. Every discovery strengthened her determination. The morning of the trial arrived beneath bright blue skies. Reporters crowded outside the courthouse expecting another story about a successful businessman finally falling from grace. Carson walked through the entrance with quiet dignity, carrying only a folder containing years of honest work and the hope that justice still existed. Inside the courtroom, the corporation's expensive legal team appeared confident. Their witnesses repeated carefully rehearsed accusations. Experts presented complicated financial charts intended to confuse the judge. Everything seemed to move exactly as the corporation had planned. Then the courtroom doors opened. Clara entered carrying the leather briefcase Carson had given her as a law school graduation gift. She walked with calm confidence built through years of discipline, sacrifice, and gratitude. Carson stared in disbelief as the little girl he had rescued 15 years earlier stood before the court as a brilliant attorney. Permission was granted for Clara to present newly discovered evidence. Patiently and methodically, she dismantled every false accusation. Altered timestamps exposed forged documents. Hidden financial transfers revealed secret payments. Internal correspondence proved senior executives had coordinated an illegal campaign to manipulate suppliers, intimidate witnesses, and manufacture evidence against Carson's company. The atmosphere inside the courtroom changed completely. Confidence disappeared from the opposing attorneys' faces. Jurors leaned forward with growing disbelief. Even experienced reporters realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. Clara never spoke with anger. She relied entirely on facts, integrity, and careful preparation. Every piece of evidence reflected the values Carson had taught her since childhood. Truth did not need to shout when supported by honesty. When proceedings concluded, the judge dismissed every allegation against Carson's company. Additional investigations were ordered into the corporation responsible for fabricating evidence. Within weeks, criminal inquiries began, several executives resigned, and the company's reputation suffered the consequences of its own dishonesty. Carson's business survived. More importantly, the people working there kept their jobs. Hundreds of families continued receiving paychecks because one little girl had grown into a woman who refused to forget the kindness that rescued her life. Outside the courthouse, reporters rushed toward Clara asking why she had fought so passionately for one businessman when countless prestigious opportunities had awaited her elsewhere. She simply explained that long before anyone called him a successful entrepreneur, Carson Hale had been a struggling widowed father with barely enough money to care for his own son. Yet he still found room in his heart for one frightened child nobody else wanted. Success had never changed him because compassion had always been his greatest wealth. Carson listened with tears quietly rolling down his face. He realized that the greatest achievement of his life had never been building a successful company. It had been choosing love over convenience on an ordinary afternoon when nobody was watching. Months later, Clara established a legal foundation providing free representation to children leaving foster care and families facing injustice. Carson proudly funded the organization, not because he sought recognition, but because he believed every child deserved the same chance Clara had received. Their story spread far beyond their hometown. It reminded people that true generosity rarely produces immediate rewards. Sometimes kindness waits years before revealing the incredible lives it has quietly transformed. A single compassionate decision may echo across decades, changing destinies that once seemed hopeless. Before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us what lesson touched your heart the most, or share a moment when someone's kindness changed your life forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. As Carson looked proudly at the daughter he had chosen rather than inherited, he understood that families are not always created by blood. They are built through sacrifice, loyalty, forgiveness, and the quiet courage to believe in someone when the rest of the world walks away. The empire Clara saved was never just a business. It was the legacy of one ordinary man whose extraordinary kindness proved that the greatest investment anyone can make is in another human being. And 15 years later, that investment returned not in money, but in love, justice, and a future brighter than either of them had ever dared to imagine.